Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm LaFondle Doyle, and you're tuning into the news. We are your local news channel to bring you the latest facts about Port William. Here with me, I have my two brothers.
I'm Ronald Doyle.
And I'm Donald Doyle. And let me tell you folks, we got a show today that you're not going to want to miss.
But first, before we tell you our surprise, let's switch it over to Dave Bush for the weather.
Thanks, Ronald. Here reporting live in Port Williams by the river, I'm looking at lots of sunshine and wind. Good day for kites, but bad day for long hair. Do not let this weather fool you, folks. We've got storms and rain moving in this week. Nothing to scare you though, as it'll be nothing like a few years ago like that flood in 1937. The water might rise a tad, but it won't be flooding the streets. So put on your rain jacket and grab your rain boots, because we're in for a treat this week. Back to you, Ronald.
Thanks, Dave. Sounds like we're in for a treat this week. Alright, today we have a special guest. He grew up near here, left, came back, and is now accepted as part of our small town of Port William. He owns the Center Point for Masculine Conversation, and has only cut off a few ears in his years here. Excuse me. Gets a tongue twister, you know what I'm saying. Some say it's a job, others say it's a position. Regardless, please join me in welcoming our very own bachelor barber, Jaybird Crow! Jaybird, yeah, sorry, we didn't tell you quite where you were going, did we? There we go, yeah, we just set that there.
Take care of her.
Yep, I got you, you're good. Alright, come on, sit down.
Welcome, Jaybird.
Let's right here.
How's it going, guys?
Great to have you today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. I appreciate you guys having me on the show today. I've never been on TV, so it's a little weird. Sorry if I act a little different. I apologize.
Okay. We're so glad you could be with us today. Now, Jaybird, when did you really start to feel less like a stranger and more like a true Port Williamite?
That's a good question. Well, for part of my childhood, I lived near here at Squires Landing, but due to many unfortunate circumstances, I was forced away. After that, I jumped around from place to place and didn't stay anywhere for too long. Eventually, I wandered back here and discovered a tight and friendly community where I can be known for who I really am. But this didn't happen immediately. For years, I was still considered a stranger. Probably the beginning of my acceptance was the participation in the famous water drinking party.
Water drinking party?
No. Water. It's pronounced water. Yeah.
Excuse me, what's the difference between a water drinking party and water drinking party? What's the difference?
Well, let's just say kids don't get the invitation. Sounds of good. Filled the night. There were many laughs and even a fox chase, and all was well until old Roy Overhold's wife, Cecilia, came around. And divine wrath herself was she. I can't tell you why I didn't stand up and run, but everybody else, Roy, Wesley, Rufus, and Big Ellis were hiding in a tree, and I played unconscious. It must have been some form of self-induced mental retardation or something why I didn't run. But I sure did reap the rewards, a pleasant gift of a rock in my mouth from Cecilia. It chipped my tooth, as you can see right here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow. I barely have a tooth there. And she never acknowledged my presence, thanks to the Lord.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would act surprised, but I think we're all aware that Cecilia's put herself in her own class. I'm sorry that all happened to you, Jaybird.
It's alright.
But I think I can speak for the three of us in saying that we're glad you decided to stay around here.
4 of us, there's 4. I'm glad I've stayed around here too.
Yeah, okay.
So, Jaybird, what led you to become a barber?
Wow, that's original.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. Alright, well, barbering wasn't always the plan. I was going to be a minister, actually. I went to school and all did the right things. I thought I was called to do that line of work, but turns out I was called to something else. I just had so many unanswered questions, so I left, went to the city and desperately in need of a job. Now, I had some past experience as a barber's assistant. I mean, I was all right. Eventually, I worked at the orphanage as a barber, and this one barber took me in as his assistant. So I found a pretty good job there with him co-running the shop. But soon I left there too, and I wondered not knowing where I'd end up. And sure enough, as chance would have it, I ended up back here at a certain moment when Port William was in the need of a barber. So I bought the shop and have been here since. Yeah, that basically.
Thanks for the background info, Jaybird.
Yeah, I got you.
And again, thanks for being with us here today.
Next, the war and its impact, right after a commercial break from our local salesman.
Have you seen an uptake in the cars recently? Have you seen yourself needing a car yourself? Well, let me tell you about this Ford Ranger. As you can see, we got a fancy sunroof so you can see the sun anytime, where. We got top of the line AC. Not any other car has that now. You got your pretty good horn. It works so good. As you can see, it's not just 2-door. We got 4 doors for you. And in the back, we got a pretty spacious trunk. Because what's a car without a trunk, am I right? And right here, under the hood, we got 20 horses under this baby. This thing will take you where you need to go. So come down to the dealership today and buy yourself a Ford Ranger.
Welcome back, folks, to the news here in Port William. If you're just now tuning in, we have a special guest with us here today. Excuse me.
I'm a guest.
Ooh, yes, you are. Well, here alone, the local Port Williams barber, here I have with me Jaber Crow.
That's me.
And that commercial, that sure was a dandy little thing. But who would ever purchase a Ford Ranger? It's a speed bump compared to Daniel Terry's truck.
I don't know who the Daniel Terry, but he don't sound like
Yeah.
I don't like the
Look
truck.
at that.
Well,
Amen.
hey, I bought myself a Zephyr.
Woo! Dang.
Yeah, it's like a zebra, but a car. It's a Zephyr. The convenience it brings is undeniable. Places where I would have to travel for days are suddenly reachable within hours. I mostly take it to Hargrave to see my lady friend, and man, it is worth the drive for her. And I guess I get a haircut sometimes, but that's besides the point. It's more. Yeah. You understand? Yeah.
So, Jaber, the war over in Europe has been impacting all of us. What was your experience with the war?
Yeah. Well, we all know the war was pretty tragic, and it affected everyone differently. But for me personally, I enlisted to go overseas and fight on the front lines and defend this beautiful country. Can I get a yee? Yeah, I love this country. I remember vividly my interaction with the Army doctor, though. When I went for my physical, he said to me, "Son, I don't want to scare you, but you've got a heart murmur, a little valve problem. I'm going to have to disqualify you." And I was not happy, to say the least. I reacted in anger because I felt healthy as a hog. And that know-it-all had no right in telling me I couldn't go fight for my country. I was not happy. But there was nothing I could do. As Matt Feltner says, what can't be helped must be endured. Wise man.
Man, that's really sad. So, what made you want to go fight in the war?
Yeah, well, I didn't really necessarily want to go fight in the war. For the longest time, I battled with the concept of loving your enemy and how that it was like the complete opposite of fight in the war. And then it turned out that I spent all those sleepless nights and agony on a choice that I didn't even have to make. One day, they loaded a bunch of us onto a bus and took us off to be examined. So when I received the news about my heart murmur, I went back to Port William, a free man. And glad of it, and a little ashamed to be glad of it. I felt disgraced by my failure to be able to do what I did not want to do.
So, you escaped the tragedies of the war since you were forced to stay home?
I don't think anyone could escape the tragedies of the war, and it affects and changes everyone, especially when we got the news about Tom Coulter. That broke my heart. That poor little man. I was learning what I had meant when I decided that I would share the fate of Port William. I had not gone off to war, but the wounds of death of Port William boys were happening in Port William still. They were happening to me. I was involved. I was being changed. The war years were long because we were always waiting for what we feared and for what we hoped for. However, people had their ways and kept to themselves. The war changed me in more ways than I ever realized, and it's still changing Port William today.
Wow. Your insight on the war resounds with all of us who stayed home.
Yeah.
While our friends and family fought overseas, we all can see the changes in our small town and felt major grief with the news from the war. Thank you so much for being open to share your thoughts with us today.
It was, tragic times.
I want to say one last thank you, Jaber, for coming in.
Before we can we take a moment of silence?
A moment of silence for the fallen soldiers.
Good, Jacob? All right, yeah.
Thank you.
I got you. I want to say one last thank you, Jaber, for coming in and giving us your time today. It has truly been a pleasure having you here with us today. I'm really hoping that we'll be able to have you back with us sometime. And for you folks back at home, thank you for tuning in and watching the news. And we'll be back with you tomorrow, tuning out. I'm LaFondle Doyle.
I'm Donald Doyle.
And I'm Ronald Doyle. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. Have a good one, y'all.